People tell me on a regular basis that my content made them break up with their boyfriend or even husband, like in a good way. And I'm here for it. I love finding that out. In terms of if a woman doesn't realize until, just educating herself and hearing other women's story that, oh my God, this dude doesn't even like me. Like, definitely doesn't love me, but doesn't even like me. So I'm here for it. But I want to share a couple messages that I've gotten. And these make my day. Because it's not that I don't believe in love. I clearly believe in love. And I actually believe in marriage too, even though I believe that the institution of marriage is a scam and usually doesn't benefit women. I wouldn't be married if I didn't believe in marriage and commitment and partnership. But we decide what our marriage looks like. I don't believe in purity culture and compulsory heterosexual, blah, all that crap, right? My message hasn't changed from when I was single, which has been most of my life, to since I've been married. My message has always been the same. I don't want to be treated like crap. I only want a man in my life if he's not going to make me center him. And if I actually grow and into myself, into like the best version of myself, and he does too. Like what is the point otherwise, right? So I usually get comments from women, but I also got one from a man, and I'm going to show you that one in a second. Well, I get messages from men all the time, but it's usually like, throw yourself in front of a train, that kind of stuff. So I just don't even open those. But it's always lovely when I get one from a man that's like, wow, thank you. And I want to start with this one because it just made my day. And it goes to show you that it's me and my mutuals, all of our work together, because we all had different things. Like, I'm not a mother, right? So I can't give that lens. I'm not divorced, so I can't give that lens. You know what I mean? We all have our own unique experiences that help educate women and help empower women and help women decenter men so that if they do end up in a relationship, it might actually be one based on, equality and stuff, and actual love instead of limerence, codependency, enabling, and all the other stuff that we've been taught that love is supposed to be about when we date men. Okay, so my friend Bourbon Bougie sent me this because someone left this comment on her YouTube page. Okay, look at this. I broke up with my boyfriend 3 days ago, and I have to thank you for that. I've been watching your videos, and they've really opened my eyes and helped me see the reality of my situation. I love that. He didn't love me, even though he claimed to. But I couldn't imagine someone staying if they didn't, so I believed him. Isn't that the truth, y'all? And just because they're like, but I love you, and you're like, but this doesn't seem to match up. See, this is what we start to see. Actions and words, they don't match consistently over a long period of time. And I love this. You and Melanie Hamlet gave me the courage to leave because staying was no longer tolerable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm free. And then, of course, then there's another comment added here. And so she sent me this last night. If you're not following her, I'm going to tag her. You're probably following her if you follow me. But if you're not, please do. Because that's the thing about this. Is like, I don't know what's best for people. I will never be a dating coach. But one of the things that really helped me with my relationships was to start to see when someone is actually, when their words match their actions. And that also meant I had to watch my own words and if they matched my actions. I'm going to give one example before I get to that guy's text. When I was on the apps, I remember, there's guys that I was like super interested in. I was like, yeah, that looks like a great possibly match, although they're probably trash. I was just like, and then there was guys that I was like, not too crazy about, but I kind of I would respond to them every once in a while just to kind of keep that option open, even though I wasn't really impressed by them and whatever. I have a million voices in my head all the time, okay? Being, oh, Melanie, you should do this, patriarch, blah, 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 right? Like trauma response, right? And then there's that quiet, intuitive voice. And that quiet, intuitive voice is a whisper. It's consistent, but it's a whisper. And the ego and the trauma response, the nervous system, and all these patriarchal conditioning, they have a bullhorn, and they shout in my ear all the time, and they went to Harvard Law and have the best defense ever, and they get my attention because they're the loudest, right? And so what I started to realize is not only do I need a community of people who will help hold a microphone to my intuition to help amplify that quiet voice that I have such a hard time listening to and that I doubt all the time, but sometimes just paying attention to my actions informs me how I feel. And the fact that I was just would always text the men that I was interested in back, and then the other ones I just would forget about. And then I'd be like, when I was bored, I would be like, oh yeah, that guy texted me because I wasn't interested. And so not only did I start paying attention to what men are doing and do they match what they say. He says he likes me, but he cancels all the time. He says he likes me, but he doesn't even text to check in and say hi or let me know he's thinking about me. He's not thinking about me, but he says he likes me. Of course he's gonna say that, right? But with my own actions, right? Like, why am I even texting this person that I'm clearly not interested in? That I'm not excited about whatsoever, and not excited, like, I don't want to ever be too excited about anybody, but I'm just like not, like they're just, you know, and it's because sometimes I was bored. And that voice would be like, well, Melanie, don't be so hard. You're so hard. You're so picky. And it would convince me to send an occasional text to a dude I wasn't even interested in because of you're going to die alone. You know, your standards are too high. Blah. Like all those voices that are like always like had veto power over my quiet, consistent intuition that knows what's best for me. So having friends who call me on my crap, who help me, you know, bounce things off of, and paying attention to my own actions. That really helped me not only understand what men are doing, but to understand what I'm doing, because that's a big part of this. That's such a big part of this, is to really be aware of like, wait, why am I texting this dude back? I don't even like this dude. Why am I giving him my time? It's because I'm afraid that, you know, there's no one else. And I think a lot of women give men their time that they know that are not at their level because they're afraid there's no one else, right? And so I really had to pay attention to my motives behind everything I did when I was dating. That, in addition to paying attention to men and what's happening with them and what are their possible motives here, and do their actions match their words over a long period of time, okay? Not just for like 2 weeks. So then I got this message on Insta. I think this is a man. The name is a man's name. So talking about how they watched this video where men were talking about, you know, women's have so much criteria for the men they want to date, but men are simple and not demanding. They basically just want a woman that they are attracted to. And then my mind almost exploded, because that's the first time that I realized that men who think this way have no idea that they're being super schmexist and straight up admitting it. They think they are simple and not demanding, when in reality, they are just assuming that the woman they end up dating won't have any desires or preferences that differ from what they want. Women have a lot of criteria for who they date, because they know that compatibility is extremely important, while a lot of men see women as accessories who will simply adorn their lives. Would love to see a take on this. So this is something that I want women to start paying attention to. And that's why, does he see you? Does he know you? Are you truly compatible? Or are you literally just like fitting into his life? Like, are you always going along on the things that if he likes football, are you going to his football games? Are you watching his are you watching his movies? Like, does he ever join you in your hobbies? Does he care about what you want to do? Is he adapting to your life? And understand that you have a whole life outside of his that had nothing to do with him before you met. Because men who do not realize that will seriously assume that you're just going to be the sidecar on their adventure of life. These men will just literally just keep doing their life. And if the woman's interested, come along. But if not, stay home with the kids, do all the childcare, do your thing, knit, and do things that don't require money. Well, I keep living my life because I don't care what you want. You're supposed to adapt to me. And so many men have that mindset. And then they say that we just have too high standards. We're too picky. No! If we do not enjoy some of the same things, and if you do not see me as a human being and a person who's going to have a life that has nothing to do with you sometime, we ain't going to fit. And what I want women to start thinking about is that compatibility piece. And also to think, are you seeing yourself as someone who's going to be an accessory to his life? I don't think women realize how often we actually think that way. Oh, he likes football? Now I'm a football fan. No, you are not an accessory. He needs to fit into your life as much as you fit into his. And a lot of women, we haven't been taught to think that way, right? I can't tell you how many women I know who really didn't like sports, didn't like climbing, didn't like any of this stuff. And then they meet a guy who's like really into climbing, and all of a sudden now they're a climber. And I love that these women ended up finding that they actually love climbing. but realize that this dude is trash. So whatever, if you find a man through that way, sorry, not a man, if you find what you like through a man, okay, but maybe find it without him. Try new things without him, because so many of these men, they're looking for I'm telling you, when I was a climber, these men would literally, they call them belay barge. A belay barge. So the person who's climbing is like the hero, setting up the route, challenging himself, blah. And the person feeding rope, keeping that person alive, is the belayer. And usually they're supposed to take turns. You belay, then I belay, then you belay, and we keep going up, 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 up. But so many women in the climbing world are just belay. They just belay. They keep these men alive. They fork them. They feed them. They give them companionship, because these men don't have any real friends. They only have climbing bro friends. And those men are not going to show up when those men get injured or anything happens to them. And so these women they'll play a supporting role in this man's life. And she gets better at climbing because she has to keep up with him. But he's not ever encouraging her to lead. He wants to take the lead. He wants to be the lead guy every time. And she's just his belay march. And I started to see that is so common in general. It's like such a good metaphor, right? And so many women I know didn't care about basketball or football or any of this stuff. And all of a sudden, everything's Packers. Packers hat, Packers hat. You know what I mean? Like, did you really care about the Packers? Do you? And does he invest that much time and energy in your hobbies? Does he watch the shows you like? Does it, you know what I mean? Because men will not do that for you. Usually, unless they really love you. They're not going to do that. But they expect you to do that for them because you're an accessory, right? And so what I realized when I was dating, I had to watch my actions. Even if I really wanted to give up that thing I really wanted to do to hang out with this new dude that I like. You know, if I had plans to go climbing or plans to go, do something cool, right? I am not canceling these plans to go hang out with him, because he's not doing that for you, I promise. I started to realize that every time I really wanted him to call, instead of staying home and waiting to see if he'd call, being available for a man who may not even call is so demoralizing. So whenever I was anxious about hearing from a guy, and sometimes that anxiousness is based on the fact this guy doesn't like you, and other times it is trauma responses. Because I would feel anxious sometimes even when the guy was consistent and always showed up. But maybe I was in a moment of feeling insecure and I'm like, right? So I would go do my thing. Anchored myself to my hobbies, my passions, my friendships, my self-care, all those things. Because if in the early stages you are already adapting to his life and his hobbies, and his fill in the blank, you are screwed. You're screwed. It's only going to get worse once you're married and share finances. And then if you throw kids on top of that, everything that's important to you is going to become less and less and less important to him, especially if out of the gate, you make it clear that your life is not as important as his. And I can't tell you how deep this goes. It is so deep. Even the most confident women I know, I have seen them fall into this crap, because it is, every movie we've watched has told us to do this. And some of the very women in our lives are like, oh, come on, just blah, 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 blah. So for me, one of the most fundamental things that changed my dating life, look at you. It was just about starting to paying attention to my motives, paying attention to his actions, what he says, but more importantly, what he does, the timing of what he does, how consistent what he's doing is. And my motives, before I fire off a text being like, hey, how you doing? Why am I sending that text? Am I sending that text not because I give a crap about how he's doing or because I actually want to connect, but because I'm feeling insecure and I'm creating a big story in my head and I need you to validate that I'm okay. I would never send a text from that place, especially in the beginning, right? So I hope that women will continue to do this work of not only decentering men and paying attention to what they're doing, but pay attention to all the voices all the voices in the head that have a boo and they're not healthy. It came from a place of trying to protect you, but as what my therapist calls it, the ironic protector. They're not healthy. They're not protecting you. They're actually reinforcing old things that are very familiar. And the first step for me to break this cycle was just to see the truth of what's happening, what I'm thinking, what are my motives, the whole like, if it's hysterical, it's historical. If I'm like, I want to throw my phone across the room, maybe that's not the time I should reach out to the guy I like. And maybe it's not about him. Maybe I'm really triggered because this reminds me of what my ex did, or this reminds me of being abandoned, and da. Once you start seeing this stuff, you can't unsee it. And it's really embarrassing. But, you know, if you can laugh at it, like realize that we all do this stuff on some level, like it's okay. But staying in a relationship that you know is bad for you is honestly one of the most painful things I have ever experienced. And I love pain. I am a masochist. Well, not so much anymore since I've been doing more healing. But I love like enduring pain to see if I can make it through because that makes me feel tough, you know? But being with a man that makes me feel unseen, unheard, an accessory, not even human, not important, at the baseline, not even like adding like abuse and all that stuff onto it. Just a man who doesn't like me. Every day that chips away at your self-confidence, and every day that makes it a little bit harder to have the courage to get out. And every day it's going to take that to rebuild. But at the same time, most of us only like learn when we hit bottom with something. So also that's okay. So I'm sorry I'm breaking up relationships and marriages sometimes. Sorry, but not sorry. Because in my life, as someone who was single for most of my life, literally didn't even start dating until my late 30s, I have never felt so alone in my life than when I dated a man who didn't see me, didn't like me especially, and especially if they hated me. There's nothing more lonely than not being able to talk to the person you share a bed with, not being able to be yourself around someone else. That is, to me, that is so much worse than spending eternity alone where I can relax and be myself. So anyway, this stuff is painful, but it is, you know, the truth will set you free, but first it might ruin your day kind of thing, or week or year or whatever. But it is liberating. And the first step is acknowledging how much this sucks. And thank y'all for your messages. That I try to read all of them. I can't respond to most, but I think I get most of them. So thank you for sending them and giving me more motivation to keep doing this work, because apparently it does make a difference in some of y'all's lives.